So we're going to go ahead. We'll go ahead and get started. Lucy is recording this video for us, and tonight we're basically doing what we call an open forum. So if you used Access Web Apps and you have questions about it, or if you're new to Access Web Apps and you haven't used it yet, please chime in and ask any questions that you want. We always meet the third Tuesday of every month from 7 to 8:30 Eastern time. And I will say, because sometimes I'll hear a little bit of feedback, if you can, on your side, there should be ways to mute your microphone. And so if you're not chatting, it would be good to just mute yourself on Skype for Business, so that we don't hear that feedback. Of course, if you have something to say, definitely speak up and talk about it. One of the things I just want to bring up is that we have a site. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up here, make sure that you guys can see it here. And I'm going to go over to AccessUserGroups.org. And on the right-hand side, we've got Access Web Apps. I just want to point out, can everyone see my screen? Should see the Access Web Apps website. Can you see that okay?
No problem at this end.
All right, cool, great. And so on the Access Web Apps site, there are videos here. I just want to jump into this little video library. Over the we've been running this meeting for well over a year now, so you've got more than 18 videos out there that you can learn. You can watch a video on everything from Power BI to, if you're new to it, you can learn the basics, to best practices. We talk about backing up and deploying Access Web Apps, how it fits within your structure, macros, and we kind of break those down. And we're always looking for different topics and different ideas. So if you have ideas for something you'd like to see in a future session, please do that, because we always want to be kind of fit your needs. This is your group, and we want to kind of touch on those things that are important to you. So I want to just get a little bit of feedback here. Looks like we've got 8 participants so far, and I just wanted to find out if you want to jump in the chat window. You can do that. There's a little white chat IM box that you can click on. I just want to find out, has everybody experienced Access Web Apps, or is there anybody that hasn't seen it in action yet? Because I don't want to go too far ahead if we have people that haven't seen it yet, because I can do a really quick demo. So Phil or Clint, if you or Ed, if you want to chime in, or if you want to type in a message. All right, Warren has seen it. That's great. And Warren, you've seen it. Have you worked with it yourself? Are you using it in your business, or what do you have you just kind of seen it in action? Okay, cool. Yeah, so Phil has seen it, but he's pretty new to the concept. He's watched some of the videos. Very good. Ed's familiar with it. Good. That's great. I've presented on Access Web Apps over the last 3 years. I've actually spoken in 16 different states. I usually speak at either Access User Groups or SQL Saturdays or SharePoint Saturdays, and those are always good to attend. SQL Saturdays are free to attend. And actually, I'll jump on that site too, just so you have it. So if you ever go to SQLSaturday.com, you can attend any of these SQL Saturdays. They're all across the United States and the world, and you can attend for free. It costs nothing. It basically is a Saturday, and sometimes you have to pay for lunch. Other times you don't. But they're all over the place. So if you and there's a lot more than what I see here. They're all over the place. So if you're near one of these events, I strongly encourage you to do that. That's SQLSaturday.com. The other place is spsevents.org, and spsevents.org may even be more applicable because it's SharePoint software events, SharePoint Saturday events, excuse me, and those are also all across the U.S. as well. A lot of times the SharePoint events talk more about Access Web Apps and other apps because an Access Web Apps is housed inside of that SharePoint world, and that's why that's why quite often you'll see topics about that at those events. And also people are starting to talk a little bit more about Power BI and how that affects people. And so you can learn about some of these other technologies and hear what's coming out in SQL and what's coming out in SharePoint and some of those kind of things. So I strongly encourage you to attend those events if at all possible. So tonight's an open forum. I love this summer series because basically the ball's in your court. Whatever you guys want to talk about, it's completely up to you. So if you have questions, you can either chime in and or you can type in a message in here and just if there's something you want to see, or if you have a question that you have, or perhaps how Access is utilized or how we may utilize it here, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And don't feel like I'm the only expert in the room. I know that I know that other people commonly join our group, George Hepworth, or many other people that have written books and on Access Web Apps and on Access in general. So a lot of times people can answer questions as well. So I learn as well. So Giorgio posted, is there a control on Skype for business to lower the speaker volume? I'm going to take a look. I'm not seeing one on mine. I see that there's a little, there is something called call controls. Actually, if yours is like mine, there's a little picture of a phone with like a cog of a wheel on it, and you can't see the screen. So I'm going to do a quick print screen and pull up Paintbrush so you can see what I'm looking at, because when you share a screen like this, other people can't see it. So I'm going to pull over Paintbrush for a second. There's a little, on the bottom right, there's a little picture of a phone. And when you click on that, I see that there's a little speaker volume right there. So hopefully that can help you with that. I love using Paintbrush or Notepad to pop up things to show people real quick like that. It's pretty cool. So, all right. So, what kind of questions do people have? Okay. So, all right. So here's one from Clint. I had Office for Small Business in order to get the SharePoint serving of Access Web Apps. License renewal is no longer available. What service should I sign up for in order to run Access Web Apps? That's a great question. And so there is what I run here is actually one of the enterprise versions. There's actually I'm going to go ahead and put in let me think. Office 365. put in Office 365. Bless you. So here's, yeah, I know that they pulled them. I know that they pulled them out of the standard business plans, which was kind of odd. But I think that I believe that Access still is in the home version. I'm going to jump into this real quick and take a look. I don't see it there. I'm going to read the fine print quick. Oh, yeah, see, so that does have, so that one's still, the personal, the home one has Access. And I'm going to go back for a second, jump up to the top of the screen here. And let's go back again. Home, personal, and business. So that one has it. I don't believe any of the business ones do anymore. I'm going to jump into, we'll take a look at business and business premium and just see if it's included in one of those. I thought that on both of those SKUs, it was no longer available. And I hear someone's sneezing or coughing. If you could try and mute yourself, that would be awesome. I'm going to try Office 365 Business Premium. And that one has Skype for Business, but it doesn't say Access on that one either. We'll check out Pro Plus. I believe Pro Plus does. So that one's $12 a month, per user per month. And that one does have Access. So Office 365 Pro Plus does, and I believe all three of the enterprise ones do, but let's take a look. Usually it has all the icons and you can see it right away. I don't see anything there. I'm going to jump over to the one I use is Enterprise 3. That's this one. It's $20 per user per month. And so that one, you have the version of Access. I'm surprised. I thought that E1 may have it, but so this one is $20 per user per month. The one question I would have is, is there a minimum number of users that you have to have? And that's a question I don't know. They do have a chat now area, so you can definitely jump into that and check it out. But from what I see, we've got the Office 365, the Home, you've got the Pro Plus, you've got Enterprise 3. So those three definitely have it. But stay tuned, and we'll see. That it's quite possible that they'll be adding more. I know that that's been a real frustration. Back in November, I attended the MVP conference, and they asked all the MVPs, what are things that you'd like to see in a future version, and that was by far one of the most requested things is to have access in more SKUs or more products that Microsoft offers. Because because it used to be in all of those business ones. So let's take a look here. All right, so we've got some yeah, so Phil's saying, I think it's with the E3 version, which is, I believe so too. Does the home have Access web apps, or is it only home desktop? I thought that's a great question. Let's jump back over to it. I believe that the home still does allow you to. I believe the home allows you to do like your own personal SharePoint. Let's see if we can find that. Get cloud storage. You got OneDrive. Yeah, that's something I'll have to look at and post to the group. I thought that you could host those. It says create your own custom database apps. So a lot of times when people talk about Access, they talk about Access databases, whereas if they talk about apps, generally an app means that you are you're doing it online. So I believe that it does, but no guarantee there. I'll have to. I'm going to jot that down on my things to look up when we get done here, and I'll post that back on the website. I'll move my notes to another screen so they don't get in the way. Great question. All right, so Clinton say, even though some packages have access, not all will serve the apps, will they? Want to give someone a web link so that they can get into the app. If you create an app, you can share it to people with people that don't have access, kind of like with Access Desktop databases. You can create an Access Desktop database, and you can have somebody install the runtime version of Access, which allows them to use the database without editing or changing a report, or editing or changing a form, or moving fields around. So you can, with a version of with Office 365, with that subscription, you have the ability to invite up to 500 people to use your app. The only thing that they need is a Windows Live account, and you can connect that Windows Live account to a personal email or a company email, things like that. So you can definitely give someone a web link so that they can get into the app. So I'm going to jump over to in here. I've got this AWA App 1 that I'm going to jump into. It's just it's just a really basic app. So that I created actually earlier today. So if you give the person, if you can invite that person to that, and basically what you would do is you would create. I'm going to go back to the site, and so within. Whoops, I don't need this help here. So what I usually recommend that people do is create a subsite within their SharePoint site. So a lot of times they'll have a team site, which I can, in fact, I'll show you here. I'm going to jump to the team site. My company is Work Smart Database Masters, so you'll see our team site, and I've created a subsite. So you can create and I can click on subsites here. At the bottom it says add a new subsite, so I can click on the plus and I can create a subsite. And then once you have that subsite created, then you can share this Subsite, you just click on Share Here, and you would invite people. You just type in their email address, and you would invite them, and you're inviting them to the site. But you can see I cleared out everything else on this site, so that the only thing they really see is this one app. So even though you're sharing a SharePoint site, you're really only sharing that one app. So I believe that if you have Office 365, you'll be able to serve the apps. Now, if you buy Office Pro, like an off-the-shelf version that's not Office 365, then those don't have that Office 365 part to it. So you need to get Office 365 to have that. Let's see if anybody. All right, so Ed is saying, do you believe Microsoft has a strong commitment to Access Web going forward? They didn't seem to do a lot in the last release. Yeah, I agree. In the last release, really the big changes that they had in the Access world was the ability to host Access Web apps inside of a corporation's SharePoint server. So corporations have SharePoint servers which are not online, which are not part of Office 365, and this gives them the ability to create Access Web apps that are hosted inside of a company's SharePoint server. So that's the one big thing. The other thing that they did is really kind of helping people find, and I'm going to, let's jump over to, open up, see if I can open up another database here. It's going to ask me for security here. Okay, so I'm going to move this over. This is a database I'm working on for Cemetery. This is just a standard desktop database that's connected to a SQL backend. But I just want to show you that right up here, basically it's helping people find things. So if you wanted to look for like web apps, or you want to look for importing things like that, it gives you an easier way to find the stuff that you're looking for. Now, for folks like me and probably a lot of you that are out there, it's like, okay, I've been using Access since 1994, so since version 2.0, and so I pretty much know where those pieces are. But if someone's new to Access, then then they'll have that. I believe that Microsoft is going to continue to offer Access as part of their products. Even if they, you hear about Microsoft deprecating things. Even Windows XP, they tried to, deprecate, and people screamed about it, and they ended up, bringing back support for it. I would hope that they would continue to have a commitment toward Access Web Apps. I know there is something out there, and I don't think it's really a competing technology, but it's more of something that kind of enhances it. But there's what's called Power Apps, and what Power Apps is, and again, let me pull this up again and bring this over. I know this is a little off topic, but I want you to know about that. There's what's called Power Apps. You can go to powerapps.microsoft.com or powerapps.com, and what Power Apps is if you have an Access Web App database, which is SQL Azure, or you have a SQL Azure database, or you have an Excel file that is in Dropbox, or you have a Google spreadsheet. You can create a Power App, which is an app that runs either on an iPhone or iPad or Windows Phone or tablet. It's not compatible with Android yet. but it allows you to have a smaller surface area to host your apps. And so basically the way they've designed it is you download Power Apps onto your, well, first you have to design it you have to download the utility. You can sign up for free. You can download the utility and you build it. But after you build it, then you can install Power Apps on your phone, and then you can basically invite someone to use that app, or you can copy that app and provide it to someone. And that app, the nice thing about it is it gives the user a smaller footprint to work with, because when you run an Access web app on a phone, you're still scrolling back and forth until you unless you're really designing something minimalist. But that's one thing that I know that Microsoft is working to expand into the apps world. And again, I don't think it's really a competing technology to Access web apps. I think that's something that they're offering, but I know that they are putting resources into it. So great question. Let's take a look here. All right, Warren said, Andy, I had to subscribe to SharePoint Online with my Office home. And so is, Warren, is that Office 365, or is that something, when you subscribe, okay, so that is Office 365 that you did with home. So did you have to pay anything more to do that with Office Home version? Okay, so you're paying, I'm assuming $6 a month. Okay, all right. So there's your answer. So if you have the home version, it looks like you have to pay. You can do host your web apps and stuff, but it's going to cost an extra $6 a month to do that. Good question. All right, let's take great question. Phil, I have a client that's considering tying in their desktop 2003 database with a web app that will allow their client to enter data. What would be the strategy for design, and how do you control user access to the data? That's a good question. And so there's a couple different ways of handling that. If you want to, you can create an Access web app which basically allows you to import the tables from your desktop database into that web app. So you can host you can host your tables inside of that Access web app. If you have a lot of stuff that a lot of people do a lot of customization with Access desktop databases, local databases, and so you can, after you upload your tables into an Access web app, you can actually tie your front end or your Access desktop database back into the Access web app data, so you don't have to worry about redesigning your whole data or your whole database inside of an Access web app. What some people do is they'll start building their Access web apps so you can have more there, so that people don't have to have Access running on their local computer to do it. It's all built into the web app, but it's not something that you have to do right away. The one concern I have with being on 2003 is Microsoft is no longer supporting an Access 2003 database. You got to think, since 2003 we've had 2007, 10, 13 and 16, so we're basically 4 versions behind. And I know that people like their MDB files, but it is a concern that it's not being supported. So let's say that you move your data to an Access web app, and it's out there. Then what you do is the way we utilized it for one of our clients was we actually one of our clients actually they paid us like a monthly fee to do this. And basically, they're paying for the Office 365 subscription to do this. But with them, we wanted to give them full rights to the SharePoint site as well as the app, and that's the reason why they do that. But what you can do is you can grab the username from inside of an Access web app. You can utilize the username to compare what they've logged into SharePoint with the email address that they're using inside of the Access web app. And based on the comparison of those two things, you can let that person into your app. The reason why we have that is, let's say the person shared their link to somebody else. You don't want them just to have access to your database without logging in. So it does a comparison of that username so that you can secure that. All right, Lucy, have a good night. Lucy has to sign off. So that's something. So that's something that you can do. The other thing that you could do, and I've seen this happen. I think George Hepworth does this as well. And I think I'm trying to remember. Shoot, I know there's a couple other people that do this as well. But what they'll do is they'll share their Access web app to anybody that wants to have the site, and then they will create their own internal username and password. So you open it, and maybe the login is user for the name and user as the password. But then you create a table that keeps your own usernames and passwords for that person to go in and do it. So that gives them access to different parts of that. Now, you have to be a little careful because you want, based on who they're logging in as, you may want them to see one screen versus another screen. And so with an Access web app, what you have, and let me pull up our web app again here. And do I have it open? All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on it again. So in your Access web app, what you have is you got this little navigation bar on the left-hand side. This is a very simple app that I created with clients and employees and as if you're charging them an hourly rate. And so you can, this navigation bar automatically pops up. So some people will do is they will hide different pieces of this, or they'll create what we call a menu, a separate menu or a splash screen that the user goes to first, that will take them to the different parts of the system, maybe clients or different parts of that, so that your clients and your vendors see something different than the employees in your office see. So you can do some things like that. So that's one way to do it.
My idea here, the discussions we've been having is the company that I'm working with, they represent musicians, and they're looking to see if they could type in the information that they need about the song to register it, to get copyrights and stuff like that. And they were wondering, would there be an online way for the musicians to enter the data, but then link it back into their existing database. And obviously they don't want one musician looking at another musician's information, if you will. So that was the other question that they were concerned about. So hopefully that gives everybody a better idea of what I was looking at.
Yeah, the one issue issue that I ran into with that was that on a screen that shows like who all of your clients are, I used to do it where I could actually filter this form based on a company. In this case, it was a bank. We had like 5 different banks that were in here, and you would see those employees. The problem that I ran into, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in a couple things here, just so that we have some data. Save that. And what would happen is if I searched for like the word camp, it would automatically filter by that. But what I found is if I did something simpler like an A, or if I did something, and let me go back into that. Whoops. If I filtered by A, you'll notice John Doe does not have an A in his name. But what it's doing is it's searching for anything within that record. So WorkSmart has an A in it. But John Doe doesn't. So when the user put in an A, then that became a bit of an issue, because you don't want people seeing things that they don't. But if it's just for a person to I can create a form without having this search in here, where you could see all the ones that a particular a particular artist had, so that so you can kind of lock out that feature. So you could do something like that, or you could just make it a kind of an entry only screen where they're taken to a blank form that they type into and submit, kind of like like a PDF form or Word form, or a lot of online forms that you have, and they can submit it, and then and then you can look at that data. The big question that you have is where does that data reside? And so in the case of this, SharePoint actually has a SQL Azure backend to it, and so that data is stored there. And I've got some companies that they're using an Access Web App to collect the data, but then they pull it in. They basically import it into their Access Desktop system, and you can certainly do that. And then I have other people, and I think where the trend is heading is that people are putting their tables in SQL Azure. Like, for instance, I can import the tables from Access into here. So you've got the speed of SQL Azure Online, and you've got the accessibility online, but then people can use an Access Desktop database, connect to that data through ODBC, and you have with the Access Desktop database, you have the ability to choose whether that connection is a read-only connection or a read-write connection, so you can choose whether they can edit that. So, great question. Let me know if that answers your question, or if you want a little bit more detail. So it says, even when using a company's SharePoint servers, you have to create subsites, don't you? You don't necessarily have to create subsites, because the SharePoint site is you can house it inside of the root directory, which basically is, well, I don't even know if it's really the root directory, but the main site. But just keep in mind that everybody within your organization, everyone that has rights to that SharePoint site, has direct access to that app. And so if you're wanting to kind of protect that or keep it inside of a specific team, then you'll want to create a subsite and then store it under there. Otherwise, everybody will have access to it. Do Power Apps rely on SharePoint? No. Power Apps are their own thing. You can build Power Apps and run them on your on a Windows desktop, or you can run it on a Windows device, whether it's a phone, Windows Phone, or Windows tablet, or an iPhone and iPad. It does not get housed into SharePoint. It kind of makes Power Apps kind of makes me think a little bit of like, well, I take a step back. Power Apps, you can connect to different types of data, kind of like what Access Desktop does, where but you can connect to. It has to be online data, so it has to be SQL Azure, which can be direct, Azure directly, or you can create an Access Web App, which is SQL Azure as well. You can just throw an Excel document into a Dropbox or into your OneDrive, and as long as that's a shared folder, that others have access to, you can connect your Power App to that data to work with. And you can even, like I said, you can even share like a Google spreadsheet. So if you use Gmail, or if you if you use that kind of data, then you can certainly do that. The one caveat that people are a little frustrated with on Power Apps, and I understand why, but Power Apps requires you to use a business email address. So if it's just I used to be access2007 tech@gmail.com for my personal email. Well, Power Apps cannot utilize Gmail or Hotmail or AOL, .com or any of those. You actually have to have another site like WorkSmartDB.com, my site, we actually use Google Mail for our internal email system, but as long as the domain is WorkSmartDB, so Andy at WorkSmartDB.com, then Power Apps will connect to that data. Great question. Can Access Web connect to an ODBC driver? No, it cannot. The Access Web can only connect to the SQL Azure database that it was created in. Now you can have an Access Desktop database that connects to an Access Web app or SQL or other things like that with ODBC, but an Access Web app cannot connect to anything externally. Now the only thing that I want to add there is that there is what's called here, let me click on here. You've got what's called Apps for Office. And what Apps for Office allows you to do is integrate things like, I'm going to do a quick search here. So here we've got Power BI tiles. So if you're familiar with Power BI, and I strongly encourage you to look at Power BI if you haven't seen it. But Power BI, you can have that Power BI connected to data. You can create a Power BI dash. I should take a step back. I'm sorry about this. Power BI is a visualization tool that allows you to look at data different ways. You can see it based on a map. You can see it based on, it's kind of graphs on steroids. And let me just jump. Hold on a second. I'm going to, I want to pull up, since we're talking about it, PowerBI.com. And it allows you to have visuals many different ways. You can have, all different kinds of visuals that you want. And it's really cool because you can have visuals that they've got like fish tanks, and a bunch of other stuff, and Power BI allows you to connect to a lot of different things. So not only Azure, but Google Analytics and MailChimp and somewhere in here is Constant Contact. Here's Salesforce, QuickBooks Online, so a lot of different things like that. So what I did is I actually created an Access web app, and I tied Power BI to the SQL Azure data set of that, and then I used what's called a Power BI tile, which is kind of, think of it as a subform. So it allows you to put kind of a subform inside of your Access web app and view that. Now, the one downside of that is you can only see one Power BI tile at a time. So there's a left and right arrow, just kind of like you have up and down here. But you've got the ability to do that. And we can also do things like integrate Bing Maps for Access, integrate that into your web app. And the neat thing about that is you can, if you have a record on your screen with an address, you can tie Bing Maps to it, and so you can see the visualization of where that location is in the world right inside your Access web apps without jumping into Bing or jumping into Google Maps or something like that. So do I understand you correctly that you upload the data to Access Web and then connect desktop app to those data tables, continue to use forms, then you slowly design the forms till the app is fully functional? Yeah, so that's one way of doing it, Lynn. You can, some people want all or nothing. So they want the whole app designed in an Access web app directly, and then you've got everything into the one app. Other people slowly use an Access web app. So, I've had clients that have been using an Access database for 10 years. And over those 10 years, many different reports have been developed and many different forms and controls are used and things like that. And if you want to bring that into an Access web app, it's going to take a long time to get that there. So kind of that, an easy approach to that is bring your tables into the Access web app first. You can connect your front end as Access desktop database to those tables so that you have access to that. You create your Access web app for the things that you want people to be able to access through the browser with those forms and data sheets and things like that. And then you can, you can slowly recreate those forms in that Access web app, or if you have forms and reports that only people within your department or your company use on their local machines, they've got Access installed or Access runtime, they can connect to that data in the cloud. So you don't have to. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Because the tables are stored in SQL Azure, Access Desktop is very forgiving. You can have parentheses, you can have an exclamation point, you can have an ampersand in tables and field names. When you get into SQL Azure, it's not very forgiving. So I encourage people to only use the 26 letters of the alphabet and the numbers 0 through 9. Don't use any spaces, don't use any underlines, anything like that. So that would be one thing. Is I ran into a database. It's probably been maybe 2 weeks ago, and I looked at this database, and all throughout there were question marks in field names, and there were apostrophes and things like this. And so the first thing I had to do is rename all those tables and fields into field names that SQL likes, so I did that. And by the way, there is a utility called Find and Replace, which I use. Let me pull up Access again, real quick. I'm in Access Desktop. Remember, I'm not in I'm in Access Desktop. Just keep that in mind. I'm not in a web app. And there's a utility called Find and Replace. And Find and Replace, it says it's not compatible with Access 2016, but that's okay. And that's okay. And so what this allows you to do is search for a field name or a table name, and you can update all of your queries, forms, reports all from that. It's a very inexpensive product. I think it's let's see the order form. How much is it? So $37 for version 9.0. So it's pretty cheap to be able to purchase it, to do that, get rid of those spaces and things like that. It's always neat when I can talk about a utility that that can help people out, like something like that. So, yeah, great question. Yeah, slowly designed forms and Access web apps. And again, yes. Again, you can create the Access web app, put the tables out there and start creating the forms. Just keep in mind that Access web apps don't have all of the capabilities that that an Access desktop database does. A web app doesn't have all the features that a desktop does. So if you need a custom report, Access web apps by default don't have reports built into them. So what we've done on occasion is we'll create a SSRS using a SharePoint, SQL Server reporting services, and we'll build a report in SQL Server reporting services that we can have in SharePoint, and we connect that to the Access web app SQL Azure tables in order to build a report. But otherwise, if you're creating a report inside of an Access web app, you're printing a browser window. So that's not ideal for a lot of people. So Giorgio is saying, so they have more breadth, not being confined by needing SharePoint. So yeah, so Power Apps don't require SharePoint. Power BI does not require SharePoint to be on the back end. Power Apps do not require SharePoint to be on the back end. And it's our hope that Access Web Apps at some point in the future will be able to connect directly to SQL Azure as a back end. That's what our hope is. I haven't heard whether they are planning on doing that or not, but that's I know a lot of people are hoping for that. Great questions. Okay, so here's the next question. When using a company SharePoint servers, in this case the login is done through SharePoint, SQL Server or Windows. The login would be, if you're in a company's SharePoint servers and you're housing the Access web app there, the login has to be in SharePoint. Maybe you should do a presentation on how to differentiate what a user can see based on his or her login ID. That's a good question. That's a good thing. Let me add that to my list as forms and menus based upon different user logins. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Good tip. We'll see if we can do that last time. Yeah, Lynn is saying this is for table names and field names. Yeah, so correct. You can, but remember, inside of a query, inside of a form, that table name is inside that query, inside that form. So even though you're searching for that table name or field name, it's inside. Those are throughout your database. They're in your queries. They're in your modules. They're in your reports everywhere. So that search and replace searches all of those kind of things. Yes, is your video with Juan available now? And Giorgio just gave me a great lead-in. So I'm going to show you something that just came out on the 15th, which is, let's see if we can find it. MSDN, there's what's called Channel 9, and there is a, Microsoft has a studio. It looks like a recording studio, just like you would in like an artist, and thing. And if you go to channel9.msdn.com, MSDN stands for Microsoft Developer Network. This is a free site, and if you jump into the search and type in Access Web Apps, you'll see that Juan and I have actually recorded some different tech talks. So this one right here, this first one that was just released on July 15th, was one that Juan Soto and I did in November when we were on site at Microsoft at the MVP conference, and it talks directly on how to run reports for Access Web Apps using SSRS. So it shows you that. We also, in March, recorded a 4-part series on Access. The first 2 have been released. So the first one was Access Web Apps connecting to Access Web App data. So we show how to use ODBC from like an Access desktop to connect to Access Web App data. And since we were on that line, we recorded a session on how to report on data inside of an Access Web App using Power BI. So this is connecting Power BI to your Access Web App data and showing that data in visually. This is not a session on the Power BI tile inside of Access. This is on using Power BI itself to connect directly to an Access Web App. We have another video coming out tomorrow on which Juan, basically I did most of the talking in both of these. Juan Soto does the majority of the talking in the others, in the other 2, and the first one is on moving Access to SQL Server. Basically, when is it time to upgrade an Access backend tables to SQL? When's the right time to do that? And what things you can run into with it, and the best way of doing it. So that's actually being released tomorrow. I believe it comes out at like noon or noon 30 tomorrow. And then the following week, he's doing a session on that he calls Access Kung Fu. And so if you search for Access, you'll be able to find those on here, or if you send me an email, or if you follow my Twitter feed, I announce them on my Twitter feed. My Twitter feed is Access Wisdom, so you can find me on Twitter, Access Wisdom, and I'll be announcing those kind of things there. Or you can just jump on Channel 9. Hopefully, if we can get it reserved, we're going to try and record another 4 Access videos in November when we're back in Seattle with that as well. So if there's topics regarding Access or Access Web Apps, let me know, because we may actually do a tech talk at Microsoft, so that would be great too. Great, Giorgio. So I think I owe you something for leading me into that one, so I appreciate that. So yes, the video with Juan is available now. That was a question about special characters, was for the table names and field names. You don't want to use those special characters. What's the current recommendation for backups? Are snapshots still the way to go? Yes, snapshots are a really good way to do backups. I think that that's probably one of the best ways of doing it. The only other thing that I've seen people do is they'll actually create an ODBC connection script where they will actually connect to that Access Web App data, and they download the data from each of the tables individually, and they'll do that once an hour, or they'll do that every day, or something like that. So that's another way of doing backups. So that's so you can do snapshots or that. Just so that other people in the group realize what a snapshot is within an Access Web App, there are different ways of backing up the data. In one way is actually backing up the data as an app, which allows you to send the .app file to a client, and then they can upload that .app file into their own SharePoint Online site, and so you can share that app with them that way. You have the ability to include data or not include data if you want. The second one is called a snapshot. A snapshot is a picture of all of your entire web app along with all the tables and the data at that point in time. So that's what it looks like at that point in time. The third way is what we use to create updates. So what we'll do is, let's say I have a client that we built a web app for. We can continue to make changes to a web app on our development server, and let's say we want to call it version 1.0.0.1, 1.0.0.2, and I can create an upgrade version of the software app, and then I can provide that to the customer, and they can load that update to their system. The neat thing about that is that upgrade keeps track of those things, anything that could have changed within an app. Could be fields, it could be adding new tables, it could be adding new fields, it could be adding forms, making changes to forms. And it will, if something happens where there's a change in the data field, which I don't really recommend people do, but I've seen people do, it will convert the data that's in that field into the new field and then get rid of it. So it's that upgrade is really a good thing to do. George is asking, what's the title of Part 3 and Part 4? $25 gift card. $25 gift card. I'm not sure what you mean by $25 gift card. But let me. Oh, I said I owe you a $25 gift card. Okay, gotcha. Tell you what, email me afterwards, and I'll send you something on Amazon or something. Let me think. Okay, so let me hold on just a second. Let me look up. I'm going to pull up my Channel 9 entries, and so the one that's getting ready to be released the 21st, I guess it's in 2 days. 21, 16. I'm going to have it released tomorrow. Let's see. Oh, yeah. For some reason, I'll do it tomorrow at noon. So we'll release it tomorrow at noon. Let me submit that. And so the next one's going to be migrating access to SQL Server. That's going to be the next one, which will come out tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. And then the other one that is next week is going to be called Access Kung Fu. So those are the next two that are going to be coming out. All right, good questions. Could you explain snapshots? Charles, did my the explanation I give enough, or you want me to go into a little bit more? You may have written that before I talked a little bit about it. You want more? Okay. So a snapshot. Think about an Access desktop database right now. If you needed to make a backup of that, you can copy that. Sure, I can do a demo. Let me see if I can get into it here. Let's see. Jump back over to. Here, I'm going to close this down just so that people can see it. And I'm going to jump into the web app. Okay, cancel this. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to refresh this real quick because it's been a while since I've been in it. So I'm in an Access web app. It's just called AWA App 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to download this. So I'm going to choose Customize and Access. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to download what's called an ACCDW file. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It's going to open up an Access. I hate it when they ask me to log in. Hold on a second. I just changed my password too, so hold on. Smart MVP at on Microsoft.com. Next, and hold on, because I use LastPass to save my passwords. So I need to. And I also, instead of coming up with a password myself, I prefer to have it create its own, just randomized letters in that. Okay, give me a second. Let me see if it pull it up again. Okay, and so and I prefer to have it randomize my passwords, and so if I don't have LastPass, I'm kind of stuck. But I really like that LastPass utility. And so in here, we're in this, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to choose Save As. And so in here, we can save the database as three different things. We can, and I explained, save as a new app. This is the easiest one to understand. This is I'm creating a package, an app package that I can send to someone, and they can use this as a basis for creating a new app. One of the MVPs has an app that he uses for watching his cholesterol and all of those kind of things, and how well he eats and how much he walks and all those kind of things. And so this would be something where if he took he created that for himself, but let's say he wanted to share it with me and he wanted to share it with other people to be able to look at their record their own data, so that he would save that app and he would send me that app. I can install it on my own Office 365 account, and it doesn't have his data. I mean, he could share his data if he wanted, but I'm putting my data in there, so I don't need to see what his history was. So that's what a standard package is. The next thing is called a snapshot, and it's just it's a snapshot. It's a point in time of what all of the forms and all the tables and all the data is at that exact moment in time. So I can click on Save as Snapshot, and I can call it App 1, App 1A, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to include all the data, choose OK. It's going to ask me where I want it stored. It's going to store as a .app file. I choose OK, and it stores it, and that's it. So give it a second or two, and this will store that app file. And it's a snapshot. So if something happened with the original app that's on Access Web Apps, you would you really need to install it into a new spot. You have to be a little careful with that because of the versions and things like that. But if you need to, you can restore a snapshot into a place. If any of you know Judy Jones, she's been on here, and she's presented for us as well. She's got a very southern drawl, and she helps me out on with Access Web App development as well, and she's got a lot of experience with those snapshots and those and updates. So if that's something that you want to see, we can certainly invite her back and have her present on that as well. She does a really good job on that. And again, there's a third way called deployment. The one difference with deployment is that you can actually save those upgrades, those updates. So when you go to do this, you're saving what version of it is this. So 1.0.0.0. So the next one will be .1, .2, .3, and so you're basically creating a deployment package, and that's a great way of just keeping up with those updates, and you don't want to skip any updates and things like that. So good question. Yeah, great questions. This is great. I love the interaction. I love you guys talking to me about a bunch of different things here. So that's really, really cool. So what other kinds of questions? We've kind of jumped all around today, which is cool. So what other things do you guys want to know about? And while you're thinking about that, I'm also I'm interested in knowing what other topics would you like to hear in the future? Next month we're going to continue our summer open forum series, and I like to this because it really gives people the opportunity to ask whatever they want. But I also if there's a particular topic that you want to talk about. That one that was mentioned earlier, creating forms and menus based on different user logins, that's cool. We can, we'll definitely, I think that's a good one to cover. And in fact, if we have time next month, maybe we'll try and tackle that. That's a topic that could take quite a bit of time to do. So we may not have time during the whole session to do it, but yeah, that's a really good topic. So, are there other topics that people would like to see? And like I said, hopefully Juan and I will be recording some more of those Channel 9 series as well. So we're right now we're kind of in the planning stage of different topics to present. I know in a couple cases, well, more than a couple, I've had clients that run a lot of their business or department using Excel spreadsheets, and it can be into a situation where that Excel spreadsheet has gotten so big or so out of hand that they're really having a difficult time keeping it. And so one of the topics we thought about is, when's the right time to switch from Excel to an Access database, like even an Access desktop database. When's the time to move from Excel to that? I think the things like Access Kung Fu are always pretty cool, where it's basically just loaded with tips and tricks, that a lot of people look at. The Kung Fu, it's going to be more geared toward developers, because this is on MSDN, which is the developer network. I know the Kung Fu tips that are coming out next week. It's talking about how he utilizes the immediate window, and and what option explicit is for, and different things like that. See, another topic is integrating Power BI into Access. Cool. That's a good topic. I know one of the issues that I ran into, and hopefully you can learn from my mistakes, is when I first went to integrate Power BI into an Access web app, the problem that I ran into is I was actually trying to utilize the report. There's different visuals for Power BI, and one is the dashboard, or kind of the web visual. The other one is a report, and you can't have a Power BI report in an Access web app. And so that's where I ran into a problem. I was like, gosh, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And I was at the Microsoft had what's called a Data Insights conference. Actually, that's why Juan and I were in at Microsoft back in March. It was a Data Insights conference, which is pretty much all about Excel and Power BI. And so I had a chance to talk with three or four people from the Power BI team, and they knew right off the bat that I was trying to integrate a report instead of an Access, instead of a web visual. So they were very helpful with that. Let's see. Access DDL? I'm not sure what you mean, Giorgio. Microsoft is doing what they can to turn Excel into a database, electing Excel as their favorite companion to Power BI. Well, it may seem that way. The reason why is that they actually built Power BI into Excel to begin with. So they were working with graphs, and they were building in functionality into Excel, and then and they split it off of Excel into its own package. So that's why you see so much transparency from between Power BI and Excel. That's the reason why. Is it used to be a part of Excel, and now they separated it from it. There are other products out there. One is called Tableau. I think it's Tableau, I think, and it's a competitor to Power BI. And it's interesting that Microsoft only released Power BI probably just about a year ago. I think it was July of last year, and it's just had a huge following, and it's really neat to see the sophisticated visuals that people are building in the community that they're just sharing with other people. It's really cool. All right, so Giorgio is asking about Access data definition language. And I guess I'm still missing what you want, what you're interested in hearing about. Giorgio, if you can kind of expand on that, that would be great. Yes. Okay, using R or DAX or MSX in Excel is overkill. Yeah, I know. We've got 2 or 3 people on our team that are into into those kinds of things, and they do as well. They do ASP.NET, MVC, all the C# stuff and all that kind of stuff. So they're heavier into that kind of stuff than I am. So that might be something. I'm trying to think where would be a good place for you to learn more about that. I can't think of a resource, but I would certainly jump on MSDN and see if you can find some stuff for that. It probably wouldn't be a fit for the for our audience, but I appreciate the idea. So right now I'm looking at the time. It's about 8:19, 8:20. So I'm still, if people have other questions, that's great. If you have other ideas for topics that you'd like to hear about, I'm going to go ahead and pop up this. Giorgio put in a link. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in. Come on. Drop this over. Okay. Yeah. So, so it sounds like what you're talking about there is basically writing SQL scripts. If you want to, DDL is more of a SQL topic. Because I mean, really, what you're looking at is creating. Thanks, Warren. Have a good night. Phil's right. DDL is more of a SQL topic. In SQL, you can create statements and update statements and delete queries and not really queries but statements. Access basically stores those SQL statements inside of a query, and so you have an update query and append query, and you look at it visually as opposed to just writing the script. And you can store those scripts into stored procedures inside of SQL, if you like. But you can write scripts like that inside of Access. You can jump over to Visual Basic and write a SQL statement there. What I find a lot of people, because they're in Access and they're just used to the environment, well, a lot of times they'll create an update query or they'll create a select statement or something, and they'll, if they want to make adjustments to it, they create it as a query visually. Then they just hit the drop down for design, choose SQL, and then they view the SQL and they can copy it out of there to make changes to it and stuff like that. So you can do it. You can do it in Access, but Access query window, there's a DDL option. Open up this one. Cancel that. F11. Create. Let's create query. So here I see SQL view. Data definition. You know what? I honestly have never even seen that there, Giorgio. I'll actually have to play with that. I've never heard of it or used it. Is that something that you use? Is that something that you use often, and how are you utilizing that? Yeah. Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it's been there. I've never utilized it in 30 years of Access programming. So it's see it. You learn something new every time. So cool. Interesting. And I'm sure that in like the Access Bible or in some of those thicker Access books, I bet they do talk about that data definition. It'll be Access is yet unexplored ocean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's interesting you say that because we at WorkSmart, we work with many different clients, so it's really fun because we've got a client in Detroit that's a wedding chapel, and they handle all the wedding planning and picking the minister and choosing what order people should process in and choose the videographer and everything that goes along with a wedding. And then we've got 5 cemeteries in Grand Rapids. That's a client. And then we've got, a lot of different manufacturing clients. Some have HR databases, and some, have what do they call it? They call them pharmacies, but it's really to check in and out different paints and things like that. And just, it's really fun for us. We've got 10 consultants here. 4 of us are in Michigan, and the rest are spread out from, Virginia, Florida, Washington State, Portland, Oregon, California, and unfortunately, we actually Alyssa, who's been with our team for more than 3 years, she was from Arizona, and she was unfortunately she was hit and killed by a truck on July 2nd. It was just a really horrible loss for her family, and our thoughts and prayers go out to her family. I know it's been a very difficult time for her, and talking with all of our clients, that had just. When you work with someone for a long period of time, you build that relationship with them, and it's listening to people talk about how well Alyssa took care of them is just a a really neat thing. It's just a very difficult time for everybody, but yeah, with it reminds me of Nice in France. But yeah, with Alyssa, it was just a one truck hit her. They think that he was talking on a cell phone or something. So it wasn't anything like what occurred in France. But yeah, you take a step back and it really makes you realize how short life really is, and take advantage. Enjoy your friends and family as much as you can. Sorry to go. sorry to go off topic there. So we've got consultants all over the U.S. So it's really interesting the different projects that people will run into, and it's interesting because we may learn something from a nonprofit that. That we can apply something to them that we learned from something we did for a manufacturer. So, it's really interesting the projects that we have, and having that base of knowledge, allows us to be able to brainstorm a lot of ideas. Yeah, good questions. So we'll start wrapping things up. It's 8:28, so we've got a couple more minutes. If anyone wants to add things. Yeah, so Phil just posted in the conversation, came across this on Alan's site. DDL is important to some larger databases. It's of limited use and access. Create a text field, but you cannot set the zero length property to no. Create criteria must test for both nulls. Yeah. Can't set the format property of date time. Can't create hyperlink fields, attachment fields. Yeah. Gotcha. So you can, it says one case where it's useful is to change. You can use DDL to change a field's data type or size. Can't do this in DAO or ADOX, so DDL is the only practical approach, other than copying everything to another field and deleting the old field, and which is actually the way I do it. I create a brand new field and then do it that way because especially with Access Web Apps, SQL Azure really does not like it if you change the data type at all. If you change the data type or field name or anything like that, Access Web Apps really does not like that. So the better way is to create a brand new field, move all the data there. After everything's done and saved, then you delete out the original field. So yeah, good. Phil, I appreciate you spotting that. That's good. That's good. I'll go ahead and put in here if anyone wants to reach out to me to my email address. I'll pop that in on there. My website is worksmartdb.com. Again, my Twitter feed, if you want to follow me on Twitter, and I'll be announcing when those videos come out. So my Twitter feed is Access Wisdom. You can follow me there as well. You can also follow me on LinkedIn as well. Just search my name,